So our last panel for the day is on the topic of sovereign economics and environmental stewardship slash justice, title, and rights. So it is my immense pleasure and privilege to call up to the stage Kanyan Hario, Seth Lafort, Dineze Was, Frank Alec, alongside Mike Ridsdale. Hey. Oh, yeah, over on this side. And last but not least, I'd also like to call up Cleo Reese. Thank you so much. And if there is a Dineze Was in the crowd. And I think the final piece that we need is our moderator. Oh yeah, I'll take a Okay. Remix. And it is my pleasure to introduce your moderator for this panel, Gui Lachem Gibu, Jesse Stopler.
There we go. Thank you. Howdy. My name is Gui Lachem Gibu. I belong to Whelp Spoke, and I'm so very, very honored to be here to share space. I can't believe the caliber of speakers that we heard from throughout today, the first panel day, and the topic we will be hearing about today is something that is very near and dear to me, out of personal interest. It is the bread and butter for so many Indigenous people. It helps us determine our future. And I'm so very thankful for hereditary leaders and leaders in general to be here to support, to lend us wisdom, to guide us. I would like to start off. I have, and don't get me wrong, this is not about me. I'm just trying to create context. I've gone to school for economics, and I quickly learned the Western view of economy is far from reality. See, looking through the lens of meeting needs of Indigenous people that are usually on the far spectrum of the receiving end by seeing our resources ravaged and pillaged in the name of other countries that have dominated them, that have mistreated them. And now they're being forced once more to buckle in the name of a country that colonized them. So today we're talking about sovereign economics, environmental stewardship, environmental justice, and how it relates to title and right. And I'm sure that we probably could spend many, many hours tapping into the wisdom collectively that is being held just in this setting alone. My opening question is, what does, in your opinion, what is needed to form sovereignty within economy, within Indigenous economy? And if I can ask Denise Was to be the first, that'd be very nice.
Masai, Denise, Jesse, sovereign economics, in my opinion, is real adequate traditional training for the youngsters. But being back on the land and knowing what type of training that the trainer themselves would administer to the young people. And the training that goes on in my lifetime is downright hardcore physical training, mental training, all done through the language and the legends that were shared to me. And this morning I had a really good drive and I talked about it. The mental training that my uncles and my dad had put me through. I often wondered why this was so. I thought it was to tell you the truth, I thought I was going through some sort of abuse or something, because I was coming straight out of the residential school, and I did not know, but they brought me back to the land. They brought me back onto the trap line, and they put me through a slew of training. And where I'm going through with this is what we get from the land, the furs, the animals that we trap and we hunt. And all of that has to do with our real sovereign economics, the way we used to be. We used to trade all of that, the fish, the furs, all of that we used to trade with other nations. The nations that we used to trade is my father's tribe, the Narutan people. The Narutan people in turn traded with the nations up north and through what they refer to as a Grease Trail. The Grease Trail went as far as to the Rockies, and some people may look at this in the BC archives where they show some pictures of some of the Babine people and some of the Wet'suwet'en ladies as well wearing these necklaces that come from the Lakotas. And it didn't come into our area by accident. It come here by trade. And so that is in itself the wealth that was shared in the fishing sites, the harvest of the fish, the trade of the fish back then, the trade of the furs. Back then, the furs were of high value until during the fur trade, et cetera, et cetera. So we took advantage of that fur trade, and our furs were the best in the world. The way we prepared them, and we still do that to this day, the way we prepare the furs, we make sure that it's clean, and we make sure that it's ready for the furrier to handle with ease. So that's what they like, and so where I'm going with this is that's our sovereignty right there. The training of the young people, like what I went through, and at the same time, what, in my opinion, going back into that sovereign economics, everyone in the community had special skills. Everyone in the community had skills of making weapons. Everyone in the community had skill of talking other languages. So everybody was used to trade, and so that's back in that era, and we could use that same set of skills, values, and apply it to nowadays with what we have to work with. Now we got the youngsters really, they know this stuff here. What I know out there, where I go, where I build the traps, these youngsters are following me with these maps, the programs, and they're busy going like this, and sometimes I'm really bothered with it, but at the end of the day, when I see it on the map, I kind of go, wow, that is something. So building that certainty on the map, because people see it on the map, and it's measurable. And when it's measurable, our existence is there. And when our existence is seen on paper and on a map, we also codify the animals where we catch them. We see where the wildlife movement is. That's our wildlife management right there. So that in itself, we want to return, we want to restore our true economics back to life, but at the same time, applying those same principles into the modern way of what people see as business. And that's the way that I think our sovereignty will take hold. So that's my opinion.
And if you allow me to add a little bit of context, the title of this panel, it seems like a lot, and it might not be very clear at first glance how sovereign economics, environmental stewardship, environmental justice, title and right, all of these things are related to each other. But for Indigenous people, there is a struggle connected to any and all of those that at the bottom line finds a common denominator that relates to title and right or a lack of title. And so many smart people have spent lifetimes fighting for something that should be given, fighting for something that Indigenous people, First Nation, Aboriginal people, we've gone through many, many different names. Next will be original. That we have done, that we have proven for thousands and thousands of years. Use and occupation within the very same place can't even relate to Western science to study something for a prolonged amount of time. Get out of here. 150 years, 200 years, compared to 11, 12, 20,000 years plus, not comparable. And chances are, during that time, people have made mistakes, as we do, but we've also learned from that. And to be so hesitant nowadays to learn from our own past is absolutely foolish. So that's why we connected the dots to these important pieces. And I felt that it needed a little bit of explanation or context. Kananario, you and I have a relationship, and I continue to learn from you and from your relatives and your friends, as we all do. And I would be really, really keen to hear your thoughts on the very same question. What builds, what is needed for sovereign Indigenous economics?
Sego sebo gwego got nari oni young yat a wax kare wage the kantanega ni the wage no kanega haga ni mo gi the road no oni wage out on haje ruskarage te go. My name is Gatan Hario, and I'm the Bear Clan, and I'm from far away from here. Mohawk country. This thing's humming, and I feel like I need to get away from it.
Speak a little closer, actually.
Speak closer? Okay. It was scaring me. And so I'm from Mohawk territory in Southern Ontario. And we have very similar situation politically and economically there in my homeland as you do here. We didn't sign any treaties and give our land away. And Canada has the largest population in the whole country in our territory. And we didn't make no treaty with them, other than friendship. So this topic is it's of very high importance to me. And I understand that all these issues are connected. So some of you might know me, some of you might not, but well, there was a time a few years back when the RCMP were raiding into my friend Wallace's territory, and we heard a call and people were asking to take action, do something. And I actually came here at that time, and I asked, what do you want to do? And they said, we want to shut down Canada. So I said, well, that's a big task, but okay. So we went home, and we met in our clan, and I delivered a message. They sent me with a certain question. And they said, you're serious about this, or are you just pretending? And the answer was, we're serious. So it's okay, well, we'll get serious too. And so when that happened, we decided to take a position. We decided to embark on an economic embargo against Canada. And a lot of people thought that that train blockade was, in connection to trying to stop a pipeline, but it wasn't. It was an alliance. It was a promise to assist, and we understood that the most effective and efficient way to squeeze Canada for what they were doing, invading illegally into territory they don't own, was to squeeze them economically. And so we chose the artery, the train artery, because they're transporting all the goods across our lands. And so we took an economic position in a manner and was very clear with Canada that we're not going to cross our land with goods that you're stealing elsewhere while you're invading in our friends' lands and you don't have the right to be there. And so when I think about sovereign economics, I think about it in terms of the territory that we're in. It's ours. It's our responsibility. And no one has the right to come here from somewhere in the world to tell us that we need their license, or that we need their approval, or we need their authority, or that we need their special science, or their special knowledge, or their guidance. We don't need any of that. What we need, I believe, anyways, my opinion, I believe that we need to take responsibility over the economics that will occur in our lands, all of it, of our own people and of the settlers. And that we need to be the people who are taking the lead as to how it gets done, and why it gets done, and when it gets done. And that I believe that what my brother here and my friend was talking about training the young people so they have that way of thinking. Because it's not just about following a ritual or practice, it's about a way of thinking. And I believe that our language and our knowledge, our inherent knowledge that was passed to us by our ancestors, by the positive things they did and the mistakes they made, right? That's how we get laws and rules, because we make mistakes and we go, hey, don't do that again, right? That's how you do that. Real simple. And we're going to make more of them. We're going to make mistakes and go, oh, don't do that again. We wrecked that river, or we wiped out those that kind of animal, or whatever, right? Like we have to be honest with ourselves about our ancestors' triumphs and losses, and we have to accept ourselves as being doing the same. So when I think about this topic, I believe the most important thing, or one of the things that we have to do, is we have to build political alliances that are connected economically between our nations, so that we can engage in autonomous and sovereign trade. So I'm not talking about trading a couple beads for a feather or something like that. Those things are important, smaller scale trading, but I'm talking about on a much larger scale, where we're talking to our neighbors and then other nations to be like, we have these resources, or we have these skills, or we have this knowledge. What do you have? These are the things that we're lacking. We need this, and to be able to exchange on a level that means that people can have a salary. People can make a living. Like they can feed themselves and they can take care of their families. If we do that, what will happen is when I hear people talk about industry comes, and they dangle carrots. They say, here we're going to give you 100 jobs, or we're going to do this. Then our people that are eating will say, we don't want that. We're already eating. We got a system. But when we don't take care of that, they get lured over there. They want to go and they say, I agree with you about we got to protect the river and the fish and everything, but I need to be able to pay my rent, and I got to pay a car payment, and so I'll go and take the job. And so I believe that sovereign economy is directly related to us providing and creating opportunity for all the individual people to be able to make a living within our own system and not be lured to go to our enemies or our neighbors, or whatever you want to call them. That's what I believe. And I could go on this topic a lot, but I'm not going to do that. So that's my message about that. Tugnium.
What I'm hearing is the importance of relationship and the importance of title and right. What do we see on the opposite end when I approach issues or conflict? I try to ask myself, what is the opposite of whatever topic at hand? And when it comes to sovereign economics, it's dependency that is connected to the opposition that has created its own economy to fuel so-called Canada or other countries. It's not just here. This is a blueprint that is being used around the world, where Indigenous people are being suppressed in the name of whichever country that we're talking about. And I would love to hear from Cleo, in your opinion, what does sovereign Indigenous economics require?
Hi. Nitiga son muskiki achas esqueo. My spirit name is Medicine Spirit Woman. And I have been, I've lived here before, not here, but in Prince Rupert. My two youngest children were born there, Simon Reese, Gina Reese. Some of you may know them. And, but I also, my husband was also a relative of the Chief Edith McDougall, and that was his grandmother. And so, you know, I do have some ties here. Also, when I moved here, I really did not know much about my own people, because I was one of the 50 Scoop. You know, you've heard of 60 Scoop? Well, it actually started in the 1950s. And so we weren't raised by our own parents. And I actually learned a lot more about the West Coast, the Tsimshian culture, than I did about my own Nihio Cree culture. But that all changed after I moved home, and became part of the community where I was born, and got to know my mother again. I had met her sometime throughout the years, but this time I was able to spend a lot of time with her. She just passed away last month. She was 97 years old, and was a fluent Cree speaker. And unfortunately, I never did learn my language. I do try, and I am learning as I go along. But as part of the Keepers of the Water, Elders Wisdom Society, or Elders Wisdom Council, I have always been involved in some sort of land rights of some kind, Indigenous rights throughout the years. And when we come to a question like sovereign economies, I have been attending, I am part of the Treaty 8 Association of Alberta. And Treaty 8 has been discussing this whole issue of sovereignty. And economics is something that is just part of that whole question of sovereignty. And we, as treaty people, we signed this treaty as sovereign Indigenous nations. And that was with the Crown, right, the Queen of England at the time. So that was that was not giving away any of our rights, not giving away our land, etc. Later on, there were reserves established after the treaty. So 1899 was the Treaty 8. And then our reserve was not actually established till 1915. Back then, the people, we would get $5 a year as not as a payment, but as a token of recognition that we were in a treaty partnership with the Crown. And that's actually still is happening to this day. We still get $5 a year. When we have our treaty days, we have RCMP come in, and they have all these $5 bills, and they've got lists of names, and you could stand in a line and get your $5. And nowadays, I'll get back to the economy thing, but in a moment. But I just want to explain about this treaty relationship. Back when the first treaty was signed in 1899, it was actually Treaty 8, so there were like 7 already signed before us. The government at the time recognized that the North was very rich in many things. And they had just started to find out all the deposits of oil or oil sands, and we call it the tar sands because it's just like tar when it comes out. And they could see in the future how this was going to be really significant. So they did go ahead to rush this treaty through in 1899, and that was not. It was part of the numbered treaties. There are actually 11 treaties, 1 to 11, and these groups meet every year in a different part of Canada. This year they're meeting in the Tsuut'ina Reserve in Calgary. Last year it was in Cold Lake in Calgary, and it was all the treaties 1 to 11. But to get back to this, the people never actually signed away anything. As a matter of fact, in the treaties, the land rights was, okay, you can share the land with us, and you do not own anything below the depth of a plow, meaning that all that oil and all those other minerals that are being mined are actually taken without agreement. And I know that Jesse talked about this earlier in the day and explained about how the enormous amount of minerals and so on, oil sands being taken out of our country. We see this every day. Well, a lot of nations, they have impact benefit agreements, which I'm sure you do here, and meaning that they have made some sort of an agreement with that company that's coming in. A lot of companies have not made agreements, and this is being looked at and dealt with right now. But one of the things that has come up time and time again in all these treaty meetings is the whole issue of revenue sharing. Now, revenue sharing is such a big topic. It's really something that, like, I can't even wrap my head around it, except that I know that we are owed a lot. So this is something that in order for us to develop our own economies, whatever they may be, I don't see it as resource extraction, even though some nations have gone that route. But this is a question that I myself don't have an answer to, because my thoughts are, if we go and do the same thing as the oil companies are doing, digging up the land, you know, creating huge areas of devastated land that's completely, all the trees are gone, and all you can see is sand and clay and that kind of thing, and it's a horrible thing for us to see that kind of thing, and to see the forests gone and things like that. And so, how do we, is that what we want? Do we want to, you know, our economy to be based on resource extraction? And I don't see that, because our people, we love our land, we care about our land, we do not want to destroy our land. So some people, out of desperation, will sign these agreements and say, okay, we'll do some development or something like that, and go ahead and do some of this extraction ourselves. But I don't see this as something that is going to happen, you know, with all those nations that have access to this kind of resource. So that is a question that I actually cannot answer. And I think it's a matter of getting together with other Indigenous nations to look at these difficult questions, say, what are we going to do? For free, prior, and informed consent did not happen when the NRTA happened in 1930. In 1930, the federal government took all the resources and said, okay, the provinces are now going to have control of all the natural resources. And so that's what happened since 1930. So no matter that the treaty says you can't take anything below the depth, or you do not own anything below the depth of a plow, then, you know, that the provinces take over, and now we have to fight with the provinces. So sovereignty is a matter of really, we have to assert our own sovereignty because this is our land. And we have to save what's left. And that's kind of just just a simple way of saying this is a place to start from.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I couldn't agree more. It is mind-blowing to me how much of Canada is not aware of the Cows and Plows agreements, especially outside of Indigenous communities. And I think that you have touched on something very, very important. Resource extraction for Indigenous people, for humans, is needed at a certain degree, at a certain level, to sustain ourselves. The issue that I'm taking with is the mass extraction and the fashion that takes place in. And it's a very good reminder, the beneficiaries of the vast majority of any of these arms of resource extraction does not benefit British Columbians. It does not benefit Canadians. Collectively, we're paying for this. We're subsidizing foreign ownership to come into these lands to dictate to us what we can take and what we cannot take, and when we do that and when we do not do so. And in the end, we're being forced, after we paid for it with our taxes and with our lands and with our resources, we're then forced to buy it back from them. That is an absolute, absurd, construed agreement that big industry and corporations thrive on year after year after year. In my opinion, countries like Canada are built on these shoulders. And you mentioned FPIC. recently we had an opportunity to travel to Ottawa and address the Prime Minister on FPIC, lured into thinking that we would have an opportunity to express our concerns. It turned out to be a bait-and-switch tactic to get many, many chiefs and people into a room to hear about more impact benefit agreements, to hear from more nations that have already signed such impact benefit agreements with big industry. That is every single time not benefiting our own people, not benefiting at a provincial level or federal level. And most of the times, it goes right back to Wall Street. It stuffs the pockets of US billionaires. And FPIC, free, prior, and informed consent, is the bare minimum. It's what we can agree on that should not be anything less than FPIC, yet we're fighting to achieve that. Why are we aiming for something that's so low? Why aren't we interested in making and creating better economies and better humans within our own society, within our own countries? We're being told that FPIC is what we should be talking about, and FPIC is the level that is desirable. It's not desirable, in my opinion. There shouldn't be anything less than FPIC. Let's aim for far more. And Mike Ridsdale, I look up to you. We have done work together. I've read many of your reports. You've influenced many of my colleagues and friends. I'm very keen to hear your opinion and your thoughts on this and how this relates to environmental stewardship and justice and title and right ultimately.
Misai, Dinizayu Sakazayu Skyzay. I'd like to really start off in looking at from a Wet'suwet'en perspective. We have 38 House territories, and those territories are finite. They've been delineated by our ancestors. Our ancestors told us where the boundary lines were for each of these House territories. So when you start looking at it from the point of view specific House on a specific territory in terms of sovereign economics, you need to break it down to from the point of view of what's here right now. There's industrial expansions, there's farms, there's homes. What are our food, social, and ceremonial requirements on that specific House territory? So what are the lands available for us to use for our gathering, our harvesting, our spiritual and cultural ceremonies on the landscape? You have to divide it to a point, what is left in the box? What is left for each of the house groups that are trying to live off of that land in terms of what's left for them on that social economic piece? Where can we do our social interactions with the land? And so we break it down to a point, really looking at it, well, there's water, there's mountaintops, a lot of the land has already been taken up. So we have to take it back in terms of putting it in where the government can realize that we still need to be here because you see us now. Through Delgamuukw-Gisdaywa court case, you see us. We are here. That's what they heard. And now that we're seen, we need to break it down to the next level of saying, let's give land back to the food, social, and ceremonial aspect. Let's put that in the front where we can live together and do that environmental stewardship piece of looking after the land for the nation that is living there. Our ancestors for generations were happy and singing people. They were proud, they were strong and healthy. We want that too. They knew what they wanted and what was good for them. Knowing the importance of all living things and how, no matter how small or insignificant they were, you give them wagus, you give them respect. So times have changed. Our lands that we hold dear as caretakers, we are given the authority through our Denise Sakose, our chiefs, to help make decisions that are supposed to support our people, our lands. We find ourselves more and more on the defensive for these decisions that we make. Success is a rare and exceptional case where justice is only found in the court system. So how do we move to a point where we are winning and we are being able to go back to the lands and live off the lands and teach our children that same thing that was taught to us as children? We need the government to give us legislative tools for First Nations so that we can make those decisions on the landscape. Legislative tools are made for other things like the Land Act, the Water Act, but we need an act, our sovereignty. We need to enact ourselves on the landscape. So time and time again, we're always sent back to court to seek justice, to defend our cultural authority. There is change coming, but ever so slowly. We've seen what Delgamuukw court case in the federal courts have done. They gave everybody the rights that they need to say, we are here, you can see us, this is our sovereign right on how to look after the land, but we're not given the authority on the landscape as of yet. So the other part of this is look at what was given to us through another, like 14 years after that, another court case, which was CANFOR, Canadian Forest Company versus SAM. In that court case, it was a BC Supreme Court. The court made a decision and it was finalized, but within that, they recognized our decision-making process. So in there, it goes from when we start making a decision and the process from the house, the people, the hereditary, to the clan, to the entirety. This is how we make the process of making a decision. And that was recognized by the BC Supreme Court. These are the tools that we need to utilize to say, here's our decision-making process, here's our rights, here's how we make a commitment to the land and the people that live on the land, and this is how we're going to get together to make a right decision for not only the people that have homes here, but the right for the people that are caretakers of the land. So we need to make sure that all of that is enacted in our lifetime. Because the next generation, they are where they have to take up those negotiations in good faith and ultimately find the right for our nations. I'm not sure if it'll happen in my lifetime, but I'm looking forward to that. Our culture depends on it, on keeping those social connections and the relationship with the lands and the waters. The opportunities are through education, training, and preservation of our history. Our future relies on those decisions that we make today. Our history relies on our stories. This is our cultural responsibility. This is how we, as a nation, as a people, can survive and work in the modern context. You know, when we start looking at how can we use those court cases and how we can use those decisions, look at what was already written within them and having the details how you and your nation can get to a decision on any project should contain the information of the manner of communication. So if a proponent comes to you and say, we have a new project, how can we communicate that to you and your nation? You go and say, well, we need a communication and engagement agreement. This is not to say yes or no to a project, but for you to give us the information so that we could tell our people, how do we move forward? Plus, that's an agreement recognized by the courts, that once you go to court, you say, did you guys try to reach an agreement? And that communication engagement is just that, communications and engagement. It's not to give a consent to a project. So that's the first step. The second step is having an agreement to make a decision. So this is where, again, we made headways through the BC Supreme Court on decision-making process. Use your entitled decision, traditional methods of making a decision. Use those methods and bring them along with you, because they need to witness it. If all things fail and you got to go back to court, that process of having an agreement, having them sitting through your decision-making process is all part of leading up to where you're going to give a final decision and you're going to have them as witnesses. This is what the courts need to see. And that's exactly what you should be able to do, is by your traditional method of making a decision, that will take you through using Delgamuukw, using Canfor versus Sam. Here's how we did it. We followed our process traditionally, and the government was there and they witnessed it. You've made a decision on that project. Great. That's the legislative tools that we need to enforce for our decision-making and on our landscape. Because eventually, we will be the authority again. And that's what we all hope for. And that's where we strive for. And I think in terms of the title and rights portion, we all are here together as one. And we should be united on the front of getting that authority back. Thank you.
Thank you, really. Mike, I really wanted to echo one of your last words, to unite. I see strength in unity. It's no mistake that this is called the Peace and Unity Summit. It's because I believe in it. Other people believe in those values, peace and unity. When I look at personal experience and how I would have experienced economies within my society, within Gitxsan and Wet'suwet'en people, it is based on trust. It's based on relationship. It's never been a written language. There were no contracts. There were no impact benefit agreements set in stone. And I think that is because there was also no closed door deals. Decision makers wouldn't lock themselves in and make promises to each other that they don't talk about. Business is usually done publicly with witnesses. And so I feel that I'm so grateful to have been exposed to that behavior, to that way of how we conduct, because ultimately, one thing is not going to change, and that is who we are sharing these lands with. If we want it or not, we're here. Nobody's going anywhere else. There's not enough timber left to build enough boats to send everyone where they came from. And that's good, because I love these people. These people are family. These people share victories. They share tears. They uplift me and my children. They teach them things. And I realized that I wouldn't want to miss anyone in my life. Every person adds something. And sometimes at the very least, it's a lesson that can be learned. And I will never forget something that I've heard in all these years that I was invited into witnessing business within Giksan and Wet'suwet'en and hereditary leadership, that decision-making is for the betterment of all. And that in itself holds a tremendous amount of balance and guidance. It doesn't take very much to uplift that and to stay true to that. And I followed politics from elected governments in British Columbia and Canada. And whenever Indigenous people or title holders, rights holders, aim for a change of legislature, it either never happens or it will take forever. Forever. And a lot of money is being spent in courts. These title holders are being taken away from their families for decades. I don't know how many times I read reports and spoke with plaintiffs that would record their mother or their grandmother or their auntie or their uncle fought this fight before them, and they're here to finish that business. And then I get to witness things like Bill C-14 and Bill C-15 and Bill C-5 that nobody wanted, and they're being shoved down our throat within 5 days, a week. How is that possible? How can we move like molasses on one end and so quickly on the other? There has to be a big interest, and it's always money. It's money, every single time. It's power that's connected to money, something that Indigenous people never considered to be part of their economy. Money was not part of that. But names are, trust, relationship. And when I look around who I do business with in my personal life, friends, partners, friends of friends, it happens the very same way. It's based on trust. It's based on relationship. Sometimes I pick up the phone and I say, hey, I need this, or a friend of mine needs that, and it shows up just like that. People will not even ask a question. And I guarantee you that every single time that favor is being returned. And it really makes it very, very clear that relationships move at the speed of trust. Something that I would really, really, really want to remind everyone of. I mentioned Bill C-5. We heard about FPIC. What happens when we as Indigenous people, as title holders, are invited to partake in some of this business? What happens when we say no? It seems like we're only ever invited when Canada already knows what the answer is. And in a few instances recently, sadly, we all learned what it means when we say no. And all of a sudden, Indigenous people are being criminalized, dehumanized, in the name of industry and in the name of Canada, in the name of Canadians. I don't think that Canadians agree with that, because we hold this relationship with each other. And sometimes that's easy to miss a little bit when we live in big cities, drive expensive cars, fly around and do this and do that. But the more remote we live, the more all these sounds kind of fade out. And I myself find peace when I can spend time on the land. when I have time to take my children out, or when I can just be out on the land by myself. And I would love it if you felt okay to share with us where you find peace, what makes you feel wholesome, what helps you guide through these jungles of decision-making. Because maybe there's someone out there that finds himself in the same position, and if there is something to be learned, I think it's worth sharing. Denise Was.
Thanks, Jesse. You know, throughout my experience, the one thing that really stands out in my teachings from my father is that he always told me, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to tell people who you are, where you come from, and what you stand for, and who you are. Don't be afraid of that. Tell them exactly who you are. And the other thing too is don't be ashamed of yourself. Don't be ashamed of yourself of what you do and what you love to do. For me, I love being out on the land, trapping, hunting. And after this, I'm going to do the fishing part. So all of that is a cycle for me that I look forward to, especially winter. I love winter. That's my zen in one of the seasons. Not to say that the other seasons are not my favorite seasons. Nice and warm today. But the thing is, those teachings is what gives me the confidence to step forward, to do something that I've never done before, to go somewhere where I've never been before, and to talk to these people that I've never seen or talked to before in a way that their language is what I speak to them with, their own language, industrial language, government language, and the English language. But you know what? Before I do that, I always speak my language to get myself grounded. So that my ancestors are with me, and my father and my uncles and all the other men that taught me. All of the teachings that I have behind me. All of that is with me when I speak my language, and when I talk after my language, I talk to these people. And you could see them tremble. You could see them that they just cannot break this barrier that they tried to break when they brought me to the Lujac Residential School. You know, I don't ask for pity. I don't ask for anybody to say, oh no, this, that. You know, I mean, no, they knew better, my dad and my uncles and the men that surrounded me, that brought me back to the land. And there they knew that I was going to move forward throughout all of these distractions, the legends that they told me. There's going to be a lot of distractions along the way, son. Watch out for them. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be talking about this, about you, about here and there. Watch out for that. And stay focused. Stay focused of who you are, where you're going, and by the time you reach there, by the time you see that old man in the legend that I was told, by the time you reach and see that old man, then you're going to see for yourself what kind of success you have to look back to when you see the young people doing the same thing that you've learned, doing the same thing that you have done for the past 50 plus years. And with all what's happening around you, son, they're coming. They're going to come hard and strong. Don't be afraid of them. Tell them that's not right. Tell them that's not right. You can't do it. Don't be afraid to say that. And if they're slithery like a snake, invite them. You can peel that snake, and you can take it apart, and you can make it talk. So these are the legends that we live by. These are the legends that the teachings that I have that makes me walk more confidently. Wherever I go, whenever I go, I always go back to those teachings, to my legends that were taught to me. The distractions that I refer to is what my friends have talked to. It's what's written on these black letters. They're tricky. They told me, watch out for those black letters. They can be tricky. They can be sneaky. But at the same time, when you see this big thing coming at you, don't run from it. Don't make excuses and say, I don't understand them. Face it. Face them. Speak their language and tell them, hey, wait a minute, look. Don't use the lawyers. Speak your own mind. Don't be afraid. And for our non-Indigenous people, our friends, you're doing good. Don't be afraid to stand up and say, hey, that's not right. We appreciate that. We see you. We see where you're at. We see who you are. And we really appreciate you. But the fight is all of ours, not just us. Because these little ones that are running around right now, and what we see that's happening, it's going to come strong, I'll tell you that right now. With our buddy down south, I don't even going to mention his name. I think the message is quite clear. The cronies up here, they're called Canadian politicians, they're jumping because they told them how high, they told them to jump, and they're asking how high can we jump. We're not going to jump. We're going to be straight in their face. And that's what we're doing. We're looking at some of these people and looking at these black letters and looking at their policies, looking at how they want to engage and how it looks. And yeah, that carrot is dangling all right, but no distractions, please. That's in my mind, that's what I think. And as I'm describing this, my friend and I, we were talking this morning. It's not just from the government, the industry, the publics, the rednecks, and what have you. It's within our own as well. There's a lot of arrows being shot here and there, but at the same time, stay focused, be confident, stay confident. And I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of what's going to happen. But what I do know is that the trapping, the hunting, and all the sustenance that we take from the land, through this and through the support with the other people, the non-Indigenous support that we have, unity, all the knowledge that my friends have here, we put them all together. That's a force to be reckoned with. And then I think that's the right direction to go. I'm not in a glorification mode or anything like that. That's far from what I'm saying. It's the teachings. It's something that is bred into me. And after I finish with this, of course, there's the pastures, right? I got a certain amount of time. While I'm physically strong, I'm calling out to the young people. I'm calling out to the young men. Come and join us. We're going to teach you how to do this. We're going to teach you how to be confident. And you don't have to be Wet'suwet'en. You don't have to be First Nations or however you want to call it. You just think like the way we think. We'll teach you. And we're ready for that. That's my Zen. That's my area of getting up in the morning, early in the morning, getting ready for the young people, and of course my aches and pains as an older guy, they love hearing that. So, how it's
Canario, I would really like to give the opportunity to hear from you what drives you, what fuels you, what fills the tank to knowing all the things that we just talked about still convince you on a daily basis to do the things that you do.
Well, you mentioned something about peace. And what do you do for a peaceful time or something like that in the very beginning? And I was thinking about that over and over and over and over again, and I'm like, well, I don't take vacation because I'm in the fight, and I like that. I'm here. I'm in because my ancestors, my uncles, my grandma, my people, they said, this is ours, this is our laws, this is our ways. Don't let it disappear. Don't let it get old. Don't let it get covered up. Make it survive. So when I was a young man, maybe about 14 years old, I made a decision. I think there was some spiritual influence, but I decided that I wasn't going to stop until I knew that I could rest and the future generations were going to be okay. And so I find peace in that every step I take and every action I get involved in, every word I choose carefully to help is moving towards the place where I see we're going to be okay. Because when I was a little boy, going to the meetings and going to the longhouse and going to things, there was no other little boys. There was only old men and a few old women. That's it. And now I see how much effort we put in every day. Get up. What are we going to do? Get up. Let's go fishing. Go up. Walk in the face of whatever it is and don't be afraid. Let's go and deal with it. And what we found was that the court cases take forever and ever and ever, so it's better just to be, in our language we say, Ronajistanirum. It means like his head is hard. You just got to be stubborn. Just doing it. We got the right to do it. This is our land. This is we're going to do it. And when they say you can't do that and you're bad and you're a terrorist and you're all them things, you do it anyways, right? I watch the old people. Even some of my enemies, they beat me. You know, I'm pushing on them and they're pushing back, and I learn from them. They just didn't give up. We're doing it like this. And I seen the wind beat me. I was like, oh, how'd he do that? He just was stubborn. You know, he just was stubborn and kept moving forward. And I learned from them and watching. And so what I find, what drives me is that the next generation, We say in our language, the faces that haven't come up from the earth yet. The next generation of all the different things, human beings, fish, bears, deer, everything. We haven't seen them yet. What drives me is that I want to make sure that there's something that's going to be okay for them. We're not in fear of going extinct. And so I spend time with my daughter. I spend time with the young people, and they're teaching me things. Speak a language better than me. They learn all the dances, and they're doing them. Like the other day, I missed the plane to get here, and I ended up going to a social dance. And I got there, and I was one of the old people. I said, what is this? And it was all young people, and they were getting up. They could say all the speeches in the language, and I'm not talking children. I'm talking, 25, 30 years old, and all their kids are running around talking in our language, and they're singing the songs. They were even doing songs that I hadn't heard in 25 years. Because there wasn't enough men and women that knew the songs to be able to do it, they did them, and I got to sing with them. That made me feel so beautiful because it's on the rise. We're on the upswing. We're not on the loss, right? And so I'm like, that just drives me. I'm like, let's go more. Because I'm like, to be honest with you, I don't want to do share agreements with them. I want us to have our own countries back. I want to disassemble Canada, and I want all our nations controlling our territory boundaries and accepting these people that got brought here to basically be work slaves for them. That's what they did. They brought all these immigrants here and said, you're going to work and you're going to pay us taxes. That's what they did, right? I want to bring them all into our countries, a part of us. That's the only thing that makes sense. And take care of our land and love this land with us, and take care of it, and be brothers and sisters to one another and stick up for each other. And someone's getting picked on over there, get up and do something about it. Don't just sit there and eat popcorn and watch. Oh, what's going to happen? Hey, it's no good. So that's what drives me. I'm like, let's win. What drives me is I don't quit and I don't lose. Simple. Right? I don't believe in that. So we have these three things, three messages that were given to us a long time ago. One of them is Ganarun Quatara. It means lovingfulness. It's the only way you could describe it. And that's how we're supposed to carry ourselves and engage in every relationship. Our relationship with the trees and the human beings and our children and our partners and our family. Ganarun Quatara, lovingfulness. To engage everyone that way. And that we have this is how I live my life. And the next one is Gatnigo Hario. And to me, that word, it means to be optimistic. They say, if you direct translate it, it means like to have a good mind. But the way the people told me about that word, that way of thinking, the guiding principle is that is to be optimistic. So if something happens and it's negative, or there's arrows coming because your political enemies are mad at you, or whatever it is, if you don't got enemies, you're not doing anything, as far as I'm concerned. So you got to have something. It's okay. And that Gatnigo Hario allows you to see where's the opportunity. Where's the thing that happens. It's you have a plan, it's going to go like this, and then something happens and it don't work out. Then it's when you stop for a moment, look around, and you'll see it. Oh, there's a door right there. Oh, that's even better. We couldn't have planned this better than how it was. And go with it. And when you carry that belief system in your way of being, then you can't have fear. You don't need any. Something doesn't work out, look around, because there's something better. There's another option. There's another way to do it. Right? Sometimes just someone walks in the room. They're like, hey, try this. Oh, or here's $10,000. I know you need that for that, whatever it is. That happens. And the last thing is something that in my language, we call skana. And it gets translated to mean peace, but it don't mean that. Because in English, peace is just the absence of war. That's all it is. Or peacetime, and war. That's too watered down to even come close to the meaning of this word. My language would say skana. And I went to university. I read a lot of books in English, so I got fairly large vocabulary. And the closest I can come to find to what that word means is like tranquility. Like like when everything's just super chill. And so we're supposed to seek that all the time. And so we don't cause drama on each other's lives. And we try to help each other have that so that it's easy. And so those are the things that guide me, and that's what drives me to get up every morning, because I want my children and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and the ones that haven't been born yet that are coming, I want to know, I want them to be, I want to know that they're not going to go extinct. It's the same as what my brother just said, that them young people are going to be singing and dancing and have the knowledge that our ancestors had. That's what drives me. I'm not willing to give up or quit or get run over or get ruined, or I don't care, they chase us around. I'm sure there's a bunch of us in this room that are in this space that are under 24-hour surveillance, those sort of things. You don't let it stress you out. Just carry on. It's part of they're watching, that's all. You can't be afraid of them. That's what it is for me. So I encourage you all, think that way. Don't be afraid, and don't be nervous, and don't feel like, oh, this is too hard, I need a vacation. Come on, this is the vacation. This is the journey, love it, enjoy it. Yeah. Took me.
Yeah, if you choose a fight, you better enjoy it. Love the fight. Someone once said, if you think you're a title holder, start fucking acting like one. And that's exactly what I'm hearing, listening to the four of you and to many other people that I look up to. It's not to abide by a system that you've never agreed with. It's to uphold the system that's in your genetics. It's to uphold the system that so many people have worked so hard for to keep alive. It's a system full of beauty, and it's a system based on love. I've never seen that in the Western world. Love is not tangible, and therefore it doesn't hold a lot of value in the Western world or systems. Cleo, if you feel comfortable, I would really like to hear your thoughts on ways to celebrate successes. Because I think it's the piece that we too often forget or overlook. But it's so important for Indigenous people, for humans in general, to celebrate.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that I'm also a Chapin. I have 2 great-grandchildren, 4 children and 13 grandchildren. And when you talk about love and that using that word, that is, I think, the most meaningful thing, because as a grandparent, you want nothing but the best for your grandchildren. And my daughter in 2013, it was the 4th year of our healing walk. And we had a healing walk every year for 4 years. And that was to bring awareness about the damage that was being done to the land and to the water. And in that year, my daughter was pregnant, and just before the healing walk started, we usually had about 3 days, and we had talks and so on before we actually went on the walk, which is around some of the busiest areas of where they had tailings ponds, Syncrude and Suncor, biggest oil producing companies in the area. She decided that she was going to have her baby on the land in a teepee. and it was right beside the lake, our lake, in where I'm from in our traditional territory. And she had the baby in the teepee. And we had many people from around the world there. Lots of people came to the Healing Walk for those years. And when it was her time to have her baby, there were elders there. People, a lot of spiritual people came. And they sang their spiritual songs. And when she had the baby, there was a thunderstorm and lightning. And the baby was born exactly at midnight. And there was thunder and lightning going on. So we named him the Thunder Spirit, Thunderbird. And we didn't really know if it was born on the 4th or 5th, but she chose the 5th as his birthday. But to me, that is sovereignty, to have your children on your own land without the hospital and everything else that goes along with it. And the baby was born healthy. He was actually born in the sack. And the father is the one who delivered the baby. They already had 3 babies at home, so they knew about that. And the child is, 12 years old now, healthy. And one of the things that, when you talk about your relationship to the land, and the people here, up here on the table, it really touches me because I know how important that is. And when you're using your own language, it's your own sovereignty, it's your own identity, that we shouldn't have to express ourselves always in the English language. And that is something that when I hear that children are speaking the language and singing the songs that you haven't heard for 25 years, I think that those things are really wonderful and hopeful. And I think this is something really important we have to pay attention to, that our languages are kept, our languages are used and passed on. I was, as a teacher, a former teacher, I went through the NITEP program through Simon Fraser University. And I, as a teacher, I didn't know this until much later. I didn't realize the power that a teacher has in a classroom. And they have all these children in their care. And they have a lot of power. And it's now that I realize, many years later, what that can do to a child, how they're taught and how they're treated and so on. So when I hear the people that are talking about asserting their rightful ways and their languages and their cultures and so on, that's so important. And I want to say, well, I have the opportunity that where I come from, in Cree territory, living in Vancouver during the Oka crisis. And that was just an amazing thing to see what was going on over there. And how people came together. Lots of people just went over there, even from Vancouver and where I was from, to join in and would help in whatever way they could. And then when during the pipeline issue, when people were saying, no, we don't want the pipeline through our territory, and I hadn't heard about the Wet'suwet'en people for a long time because I had moved away. So that name came up again, and then found out what the hereditary chiefs and, you know, the people that believed in what they were doing when I found out that about that, and it was all in the newspapers, it was all over, it was like everywhere. And basically, you shut down Canada. You shut down Canada. It was amazing. I think people were so thrilled when that happened. It was a wake-up call. And, you know, when we talk about over what's going on with oil and everything, I mean, what are they doing with the oil, right? To make money, right? Like you said, it's all about money. But what is actually going to happen with the oil? Okay, they're burning it and so on, but they also are making plastic out of it. And we have trillions of tons of plastic in the world. And where is it going? It's going to be everywhere. And to me, this is a real problem that has to be looked at, because it's going into the animals, the microplastics going into the oceans, into the fish, and we're going to be eating it. So it's not just the fact of, you know, getting our own part of the, you know, the revenue and all that kind of stuff, but it's also what is going on with this particular resource. So that's just something that I thought that I wanted to bring out while I have a chance to do that. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Mike, in conversation between you and I and many others, something that seems to stand out very strong is the importance of education and knowledge, and is the importance of being inclusive, to take in our youth and have them be part of the things that are so important to us, because they will be important to them. And often we overlook them when they're the ones that would have to deal with our consequences based on our actions. And I'm familiar with your work, Mike, and I see that, and I know that you take that very serious, and that you educate, and that you include youth. And that is what I see in people that I look up to in my personal life and in my professional life. Youth are at the center of everything. Children, kids, youth, young people. We should not ever treat them any different. We should expose them to what matters the most. And Mike, you have been at the forefront of so much of that work when it comes to educating those young people. And I would love it if you could share some of that with us.
Thank you. And this is kind of the common theme here is our children, because they are our future. As we continue to engage in planning as a collective and together, we bring that home. We teach it to our children from what we've learned And we hope to instill upon them that eventually they are going to be the ones to carry it forward. And when we think about ourselves and our children, we try to be one mind, one heart, and a common bind that keeps us together is our children. When we talk about things that we've written, and we talk about how it resonates with them as children, we hope that it resonates with each of you. Because for me, when I hear someone come up to me and say, hey, I read this great document, it was something that you wrote, and inside my heart just lightens up, because then this is because it's so exciting, because it's that connection. And we want our children to have that same connection to the land, to the waters that we feel. And when we take it to the children in schools, and we tell them about how we use wagoose, we use respect in everything that we do. And we try to get that connection with them so that they can take it forward. I always like to say in school, when I go there, we are all one story. From the time that we are born to the time that we leave this great, wonderful earth, is that we're trying to make the best story that we can, with wagoose, with respect. And I'm trying to share my story with you today, and hopefully I'm doing that. And someday you can share your story with me. But eventually we're going to hit that point where we hope the next generation comes in and they have a new story to tell. But we're part of that. And that's where I think we need to be, grounded by our children. Even though we look at where we want to go and how we want to see it forward, bring it back and take those baby steps with them. Those baby steps in talking to them will instill on them how they see their future. And I hope it's the same future that we see eventually. There's one more thing that I'd like to add also is I'd like everybody to thank the cooks and the helpers here, because they did a great job. And can I hear that? There's a second part to that ovation, is that I talked to some of the people on the doctor panel, and I says, I want to see what kind of difference you guys get at the end of your speech, how loud the crowds are clapping for you, and your clapping here kind of uplifts this panel here as well. So, hey, doctors. But thank you.
Thank you so much. Couldn't ask for a better segue. I would really, really appreciate and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with all of us. I believe we are at time, and I'm happy to hand this back over to Janelle and Colin, both my cousins.
Check, check. Yeah, Doyach Sinisum. As always, it is an immense inspiration to hear of your words, your stories, your experiences, and this trajectory that we're on that has been set in place for many generations. And I know the fight is in a good place. And, and we have some prints for you all on behalf of the Peace and Unity team. Doyach Sinisum. Photographers, call them up after playing the video, and then Galen mentioned she'd have something for the closing ceremony-ish type thing. Or 5-minute break?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think this will be short.
All right. Thank you so much for that amazing last panel of the day. I heard a lot of really sharp critiques of the current systems we're in and a really clear vision for an alternative world that we all deserve. And I think a big part of that world is building up leaders, building capacity with one another, and building confidence in new skills. So